Hi, I'm Dave Dinkle, and I get this question quite a bit. How much profit should you make on your wholesale deal? I want to start out with a precautionary tale. A few years ago, I had an investor come to me who I'd seen at every meeting at a local RIA that I was working with. And he said to me, I've been coming for 2 years and watching you show wholesale transactions, and they're averaging $22,000 to $25,000 net profits, and I can't understand it. I said, well, what's your problem? And he told me that in the previous 2 years he had completed 120 wholesale transactions. So I said to him, that's great. What do you need me for? He says, well, the problem is my average transaction net profit before my expenses, that's gross profit to me, but before his expenses, were less than $1,700 each. And I said to him, well, gee, what's the rest of the story here? Do you assign every contract? And he said, yes, I'm in a wholesaling group where I effectively, with hindsight, have become a bird dog. So I go out and I get these transactions, and I do that in the traditional ways. I have people marketing for me. I door knock. I do all that stuff. And then what happens is I get the deal under contract, and they purchase it from me. And they typically mark it up anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. Because the deals have been pretty good, I've been averaging less than $1,700 on each deal. So I said to him, well, you have a problem? He said, yes. For the previous 2 years, I've lost money because that's not large enough a spread to make a net profit on them. So I said to him, well, look, you're only lacking a buyer's list. He said, well, yes, but I only sell to my wholesale team. I said, how's that working for you? He said, not very well. So what we did is we shifted his thinking, had him build a buyer's list, and he became very successful after that. But I have a second precautionary tale for you, which is kind of an insight into the way the industry thinking is. Now again, what most guys look at when they start looking at wholesaling is, I don't have any money, so I'm going to go ahead and find out how to do deals with no money because everybody says you can. And the drumbeat of the gurus is assign the contract, just get it under contract, no closing cost on A to B or B to C because there isn't A to B and B to C, it's an A to C. So just make that amount of money. So what's the precautionary tale here? I saw an interview from a national guru with one of the guys that did, I think he did 110 deals closed that year. And the guru said to him, well, how much are you averaging on these deals? And he said, look, I can tell you exactly what we do because we try and make a $10,000 assignment fee on each of the deals. So you say to yourself, $10,000 times 110, that's not anything to squeeze at. But as he was talking, if you listen to his staff and what it cost him to get the deals, he might have been better off at a McDonald's making $15 an hour. And if you say you can't make $15 an hour at McDonald's, you didn't used to be able to. It depends on how badly they need help. The point here is his mindset was assigning it. Oh, by the way, he did say, oh, yes, I did make $20,000 on a recent assignment. That's the biggest one we've had. That's pathetic. And I say that to you because another investor came to me who had, again, been coming to the RIA meetings, and he said, I'm making about $12,000 average on each of my deals. And I said, okay, tell me what you do. And he told me, and I said, man, you have 5 people besides yourself working on these deals. He said, yeah, I'm not really making any money. And I said to him, okay, I can show you how to double your income starting tomorrow if you just do what I tell you. And he did. And he came back a year later and he said, I doubled my income with no additional effort whatsoever, no additional money whatsoever, and I made over $1.3 million additional. So just because you don't think it can happen to you doesn't mean it can't happen at all. And what I see people believing, watching thousands and thousands of YouTube videos, is don't be a pig, don't make too much money, just assign it and walk away. Well, that's fine if you never want to be serious about your career in real estate investing. I've always said it's a renewable resource, but the fact is it can't renew as fast as the trees are being cut down in the forest because there's so many investors. So when you go in and you find a deal, it's precious and you need to make the most of it that you can. Now, the caveat is, of course, if you overpaid for it, you can only make so much money on it or maybe nothing at all. So what's the obvious answer? I'm not giving you the answer to what's going to happen in the video because that's not the answer that you're going to see. The obvious answer, and I've said it forever, is make the most money you can on every deal. And just because you get it under contract for a set price, you don't go to closing with that intent to get that set price. You always want to get more money before you close. If it's a listed property, then you're going to ask for a repair credit on the HUD. That way the listing agent actually gets a commission on that discount. If you ask for a discount, especially to a seller direct, it sounds like, gee, I'm shopping here and I'm getting a discount on my house. I don't want to give you a discount. And the agent says, hey, I don't get a commission. That $20,000 discount you want cost me $1,200 or $1,000 out of pocket. I'm not even going to tell the seller about it. So repair credit on the HUD versus a discount. So what we're going to do is look at some real world situations. And what I did is, for sake of time, I'm only going to look at 15. But I want to show you in depth the details of how these work. It's important that you stick with it because at the end the summation is going to be important to you. And it will solve this question of how much should I mark it up. So what I've done is I've taken HUD statements, A to B closings, B to C closings, and I've cut them in half to fit on the page. Now, I want to warn you ahead of time. If somebody tells you don't double close because you have to pay double fees, they're wrong. That's your choice to pay double fees. All you have to do is say to your seller, I'm going to go ahead and pay you that. It's more than I wanted to. It may be more than I can afford, but I need your help. Use those words, your help. There may be a moment of silence, or the question is, what do you mean by help? And you answer to them very simply that my sellers usually help me by paying my closing costs. Don't say anything. 99% of the time, if you say that with sincerity, they may say yes. And the 1% of the time when they say no, then you come back with a very simple question. Well, how about helping me with half of them? Now, how much is half of them? Well, typically the closing costs vary, especially state to state. New York is the most expensive in the country, and there are other states that I can't even tell you how they make a living charging what they do. It's their problem, not my issue. So typically, they're about 1% of the value of the closing. Now, if the guy's getting a hard money loan on the back and he pays 1% a month, all these things take into account. Nothing. All that matters is what are your closing costs on that transaction. Same thing on the B2C. So when you accept your end buyer's offer, you say to him, look, I'm going to go with you. It's not my highest offer, but I trust that you're going to close. But at that price, I need your help. And he's going to say, what do you mean need my help? And you say, normally or typically, my buyers pay my closing costs. Don't say anything. Most of the time, he's going to say, okay. If he doesn't, he says, I never saw that. Say, well, I do it all the time. Don't say anything. And he says, well, I don't know. Say to him, all right, I haven't done it before, but I'll split them with you. Okay. So now what do you have? If you do it properly and sincerely, you have a double closing without having double closing costs. So now your original seller won't know how much money you're making, and your end buyer won't know how much money you're making at closing. That's the point of a double close. If your profit spread is too small, by all regards, assign the deal. And I get calls every day with very small profit margins. They have to double close, and I say, why do you have to? They give me a list of reasons. The state won't allow it. The closing agent won't allow it. The seller won't allow it. And that's what I learned. Okay, so that's what you learned, but it's not correct. You need to focus on larger wholesale profits. You do that by having a bigger buyer's list. So let's get into the example. Here's the purchase price. This is the A to B top half of the HUD, $90,000. This is the bottom half. What's important here is you'll notice there's no earnest money deposit. I'm going to talk about this and show you out of the 15 transactions, how many of them had no earnest money deposits. There's 7 ways to go to closing with no earnest money deposit. I get these calls every day, and I got one yesterday. I'm putting an offer in on a $900,000 property, and they want an earnest money deposit. Yeah? How much did they want? And she said, well, they said I could put in $1,000. And I said, $1,000 on $900,000? Better take the offer. And her response was, but I don't have $1,000. So my question becomes, so you're going to get a $900,000 property under contract, and you don't even have $1,000 earnest money deposit? No. I watched a YouTube video, and he said the difference between a $90,000 property and $900,000 was just a simple zero. Well, that's good TV, and I'm sure the guy makes great videos for YouTube. But in the real world, if you're going to make money and make this a career, sometimes I feel like popping somebody on the side of a head with a 2x4 and say, that doesn't make any sense. Come into the real world here. So this is the B2C. This is where the profit comes out, the actions happen, so on and so forth. I'm showing you this A to B and B to C transaction because every one of the 15 I've summarized for you. And I want you to understand that this is how I got the numbers. So here's the sale price. Sale price is $110,000. We bought it for $90,000, $110,000. Sounds like a $20,000 profit, right? Except for closing costs. So again, this is the B to C bottom half of the HUD. and we notice right away the earnest money deposit is $5,000. Now, this is the right way to do it. You go in for whatever you can get, whether it's 0, 500, 1,000, or whatever, and you get 2 to 5 times what your end buyer is going to put up. The idea being that if he doesn't close and you get his earnest money deposit, you're going to make money even if you don't close. Now, how easy is it to get the earnest money deposit from the end buyer if he doesn't close? It's not immediate. Depending on what your contract says, you're not going to get that money probably without going to mediation or going to court. And if you think that simply this is a non-refundable earnest money deposit is enough, you're dead wrong. You may get it some of the time, but you need more sentences and more clauses to make sure that your closing agent will release that $5,000 to you. Because here's the deal. The closing agent very simply looks at the contract. He's not there to interpret it. He does what the contract says. Now, the contract says if the end buyer breaches the contract, then the earnest money goes to you, the investor. Hey, that's simple. I can read that. However, what's going to happen if you, in fact, get that $5,000 deposit? Especially if the end buyer is a professional wholesaler or a rehabber that has an attorney, the attorney is going to give a letter to the closing agent and says, do not disperse. In fact, the original investor in this case breached the contract, and we're going to file suit. If he does disperse it, he's going to be sued by the end buyer. If he doesn't disperse it, he's going to be sued by you, the investor. So what does he do? He lets it set in his escrow account, and he says, show me the court order and I'll disperse. Now, these are the technicalities that sound to you like, man, that's a lot of stuff. If you're going to be doing business in the real world, watching 1,000 YouTube videos isn't going to help you. Because you have to be out there and fail forward, be on the front line, and in fact, have somebody that knows what they're doing to help you. This is the payoff for the transactional funding. So this is a transactional funding with no money from the real estate investor. You saw he has no earnest money deposit. I paid the full amount of what was due on the A to B closing. So there I am getting paid back. There's the gross or net profit. Now I say gross or net. That is a net profit because he had no earnest money deposit. If he'd put up $1,000 earnest money deposit on the A to B, that profit you'd see there would show $16,148.11. $1,000 more than the actual net profit. So we're going to deal in net profits on what you're going to see. And this is a summary of what we're going to go through as quickly as I can because every one of these has a cautionary tale, I'm going to say. So this is the first one. This is the heading. You can see property listed, purchase price, EMD, so on and so forth. Now the profit has been reduced by the earnest money deposit the investor put up. So I went ahead and wherever there's an asterisk, it means the investor put up an earnest money deposit. And if you're saying to yourself, well, Dave, you just said that they didn't. Well, I'm showing you how many out of 15 did not. You can't do it every time, especially with listed properties. And oh, by the way, while I'm on precautionary tales, I'm going to give you one more. I had a buyer's agent, not a listing agent, but a buyer's agent call me. And he said that the investor had contacted him to put offers in for him. Now, you watch YouTube videos and it says to you, you go out there, you get a buyer's agent. They do everything for you. Then they get part of the commission that the seller is actually paying. This is a great deal. Well, hold it. There's a lot of caveats to go with, does it really work that easily? But this buyer's agent had been in the business for a very short time period. That's why he was kind of suckered into even trying this. And he said to me, is this a client of yours? And I said, I'm a transactional funder and I fund 100% of the A to B closing. And he said, okay, but this is rather strange, his request for the earnest money deposit. I said, what does that mean? He said, well, he wants a 30-day inspection and he doesn't want to put up the earnest money deposit until after the 30 days. Okay, that's kind of a novel idea that somebody came up with. And if you're dealing directly with the seller that doesn't know any better, you can get away with that. But if you're going to do listed properties, this buyer's agent was saying to me, I can't put that offer into a listing agent. It's unacceptable. He's right. It's absolutely over the edge of being unacceptable. And I see this every day where investors come in, they watch 200, 500 hours, they love this certain guru, and they go in there and they try it. And the details that make the money, they don't get. Because they either haven't watched enough videos or the guru doesn't disclose what you really need to know to get deals done. So I've taken this out of the equation, so we're going to look at actual real profits. Here's the first one. This happens to be the property we looked at, the breakdown on the A to B and B to C before this. You'll notice here it's listed, purchase price, sale price, earnest money deposit from the end buyer, net profit $15,148. It happens to be 16.8% of the purchase price. That's one way to do it. That's an assumption that he put up the $90,000. He did not. I did. So his profit is not 16.8%, it's infinite. If you divide the 15,148 by 0, what he put up, it's called an infinite profit. For the sake of reality, this is a standard we're going to use. Here's the second deal, $60,000, $100 earnest money deposit by the investor, sold it for $80,000, $17,000 profit, 29.9%. Now, if you notice, I got two little asterisks here. It's not a listed property. Earnest money deposit was $5,000 by the investor. Why did the investor put up $5,000? Because the seller wouldn't do it for less money, and he had to do the deal. He didn't have to do the deal, but look at this. He made $32,997 on it for a 20% profit. So if you come to me and you say, Dave, I need $5,000 to get this deal. It's a giant. It's great. It's everything. I'm going to tell you there's ways to do the earnest money deposit when you can't have it up. The fastest and quickest are friends and family members. And I know you're thinking, nobody I know has $5,000. Yes, they do. What you need to do is put your deal in a qualifying sheet and say, here's what I need $5,000 for. At the end, show them what you can buy it for, show them your sales price and the potential profit, and make them an offer. You know, Dad, I need $5,000. Here's what I need it for. I'm willing to pay you the $5,000 back as soon as I close, plus 10%. That's $5,500. Not annually, 10% on your money. And if it's not Dad and it's a friend, he may say, well, I'll do it, but I'll split the profit with you. Well, you're better off to get hard money almost, except you don't have any money to begin with. So my suggestion is make him a dual offer. John, what I'm going to do is give you 10% on your $5,000 or 20% of the profit, whichever is greater. So you've given him just two choices. Do you want $5,500 sure thing in the bank, or do you want to take a chance on making 20 extra percent? And boy, I get the best of both worlds because I get the higher of either one. That works very well and very often. So number 4 here is listed. Now you notice we got a trend going here. Seems to be 3 listed properties. Net effect is 10.8%, $100 earnest money deposit. It's unusual for a listing agent to agree to a $100 earnest money deposit, but they did. And here's the net benefit, 10.8% profit or $7,500. Number 5 has 3 asterisks, and it is listed. Earnest money deposit by the investor is $2,000, but the buyer's earnest money deposit was only $1,400. That's reverse. I'm telling you, if you can't do any better than that, build your buyer's list so it's more competitive. They did make a profit, and I always say that if it's a profitable deal, that's all that matters. Even if you're making $1,000, make whatever you can. It's a learning experience. Again, this profit doesn't include $4,000 in JV fees. In other words, another investor referred this deal, even though it was listed, to this investor, and the earnest money deposit was subtracted. So this is the net profit on the transaction. Number 6 has 4 asterisks. It is listed, 0 earnest money deposit. Here we've seen 2 of them now. And the net effect was a 2.9% profit, which sounds small, but it is $7,000. Remember, if you say to yourself, well, gee, 2.9% isn't much, there's no money in this transaction. As a transactional funder, this investor came to me and said, can you fund this? Yes. This is after all costs, including, in the previous one, for example, a JV fee that brought the deal to the investor. Now, in this case, what happened is the listing agent arranged a hybrid closing. In other words, the listing agent was actually the original buyer. So he made $7,500, 3% of the listing price, plus a profit, $74.67 on the deal. And if you're saying to yourself, well, listing agent can't be a wholesaler, wrong. You're just not listening to the people that are on the front line doing these transactions on a day-to-day basis, legally, ethically, and morally. So it turned out to be a 5.7% net profit to the wholesaler who is actually a listing agent. Number 7, again, it's listed, 0 earnest money deposit. What I don't like here is a 0 earnest money deposit by the end buyer. However, it did turn out to be a 6.17% profit over $8,000. This is a direct with seller, number 8. And if you notice, I got 5 asterisks now. Purchase price $25, no earnest money deposit, sold it for $47, 73.1% profit. Anything at $50,000 or less, when you talk about percentage profit, 10% on $50,000 is $5,000. But 10% on $500,000 is $50,000. So percentages can be misleading, but they're not far off. They're a guideline for you. The profit excludes a $1,500 finder's fee, which went to the person that brought this investor the deal, as well as a buyer's agent fee. It was a listing agent who brought the deal, wanted a finder's fee, and he charged the buyer's agent fee, $950. Why would he do that? Because he didn't know how to wholesale it himself, and it's a cheap property. What's he going to make? 3% of 25,000 bucks, $750? Here he made 3 times that amount by asking for it. Number 9, 50,000, again not listed, $17,000 profit, 35%. Number 10, more asterisks, not listed, 0 earnest money deposit on both sides. Not a good idea, but he made $14,390. All of these transactions you're going to see were done with transactional funding that I supplied. That's why I'm showing them to you. So there are no money transactions other than an earnest money deposit by the investor in the deal. The realtor brought the end buyer for a 3% commission. This is very important because if you can find realtors who have buyers lists, they'll be happy to bring you deals for 3% all day long. Number 11 listed $95,105, $5,830, 6.1%. Again, no earnest money deposit, no money in the transaction. Number 12, $160,179, $15,000 profit, no money in the transaction. Now, number 13 has 7 little asterisks. What's going on here? The one thing I would say right off the bat, he got no earnest money deposit, good job. No earnest money deposit, bad job. Nonetheless, $14,420 profit. So the $13,860 plus the $560 facilitation fee turns out to be the $14,420 or 6.2%. This is, again, an agent acting as a wholesaler getting 3% and not much more than that. But nonetheless, it's okay. It's a lot better than just the 3% commission, I guess. Number 14, investor had to put up a $5,000 earnest money deposit, and he required the end buyer to put up the same amount. But he made $20,673, or 30.4% profit. Number 15, we're getting to the end here, and it's important. I'm glad that you stayed with me because I have summaries coming up that will answer that question. How much profit should you ask for? The highest priced property in here is only $255. Here's one where again it was listed. Notice that the no's I have bolded because these are direct to sellers. You listen to one guru and he will say only do direct to sellers. Do not get involved with listing agents. Well, look at all the yeses here. You have to learn how to communicate with them properly and how they will think they're using you and how you have to know you're using them to make it work. But here's one, 106 to 185 listed property. $56,778. In summary, we have 11 listed properties, 4 that are not listed. Purchase prices averaged $113,866.67. Earnest money deposits, I'll show you those on the next page. Sales price averaged $137, and the profit average is $17,360. This is an accurate figure. And the profit percentage is 21.9. How did I get the profit percentage? I just summarized all of these divided by 15. Is that the right way to do it? Well, I want to show you the difference. Again, just to mention it, that 73% of these 15 recent transactions were listed properties. So in summary, what I want to say is 11 deals from the MLS listings, 4 deals directly with sellers, average purchase price $113,867, earnest money deposits, 8 had 0, 2 had $100, 5 had $2,000 or more. You notice that in 2 cases they had $5,000 each. It's just what you can do. If you don't understand 0 earnest money deposits, you're going to be putting up earnest money deposits. Now remember, 11 of these deals were listed properties. So it's not because they were listed that they had to put up the earnest money deposit. In some cases, they had 0 earnest money deposits on listed properties. Average sale price, $137,000. Average profit, $17,360. Average percentage profit. Now, I mentioned this before. I just simply took all of the percentages, averaged them together. It's 21.9%. But I want to go one step further. I want to talk about the real average percent profit. What do I mean by real? And it's because statistics can be made to lie. I just showed you 21.9%. Here's another way of looking at the same figures, but getting a different result. The total funds required for the purchase of 15 properties, $1,708,000. Total profits on the 15 deals was $260,400. So if I look at the true percentage of the profits, I divide 260,000 by the 1.708, it's 15.2% average profit. So my response to you is, how much should you make on every deal that you get? As I said in the beginning, you should make the most you can. This is a function of understanding that if you go out to sell it to other wholesalers or rehabbers, how much do you mark it up? Well, here's a minimum number, 15.2%, but you need to have a great buyer's list. What's a good buyer's list? Well, a good buyer's list is more than two. And I say that with tongue in cheek because if you go out and you say to yourself, look, I saw a video on YouTube and it says just go after the hedge funds. You can Google them. You can find them all online. You can go see who the cash buyers were. Contact them. Worst possible idea in the world. What you need to do is build a buyer's list. Dave, tell me how many. A good number is 300 to 350. What? 350 who? Well, that doesn't mean you go to every RIA meeting and you trade cards with every investor there. Typically, less than 5 investors in the room of 200 actually are buying deals. Now, there's other ones in there who are trying to sell deals. You may want to look at their deals to resell to your super buyers list. But if you get this concept of the importance of the buyers list, you can then move on to those are more important than finding deals. Because if I do it right and I build a powerful buyer's list, the next thing that comes up is I don't need to find properties. I can go out and advertise. I can sell anybody's deal. And the likelihood is you can. Now, how much are you going to make on doing that? That's a discussion for not this particular video, but for another one, because that is a whole career in itself. I've had students come to me and say, I read the course you gave me on building a massive buyer's list, and I did that. And it changed my life because no longer did I have to put up earnest money deposits, go searching like a dog for deals, fight with other investors, lose deals to other investors. All I did was put it out there that I'm a constant buyer, and they came. Now, how much money can you make doing that? Well, here we go back to how much should you make? The most you can. And that varies anywhere from a couple of $1,000s per deal up to one that I just saw. I did a double closing for an investor, and he said to me, this might be unusual because there's a JV fee in there in the A to B leg. And I said, it's not unusual. How much is it? He said, well, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the HUD. When I saw the HUD, the JV fee, the investor who brought it to him charged him $85,000. $85,000. Now, he had resold it, so I'm funding the resale of the property because he had to buy it. That's what I did, bought it for him. He resold it. He made $14,700. What's the difference between those two guys? The guy that sold it to him has a better buyer's list. He learned the lesson that maybe he should build his. So again, I'm Dave Dinkle. I hope this helped you, and I wish you limitless success in all that you do.